everybody. Hey, it's Randall K coming to you live from magnificent Middle Tennessee with this episode of Bible News Radio. Normally I'm your co-host, but I'm going to be your host this evening, or, well, whenever you're watching this. It happens to be evening here in this wonderful country of ours, and God's country here in Middle Tennessee. Yeah, people say that about everywhere, right? You know, whether it's the great state of Texas or like in Congress, all the representatives, senators, they're always from the great state of, I've been to some of those states and some of them aren't so great. But anyway, they're all great and you're all great. Anyway, so I'm your host, and tonight I have the privilege of being the host because my guest for this episode is the author of this brand new book, or newly released book, Pickleball Faith. And the author is Stacy Lynn Harp, Master of Science. You probably recognize that name as being the regular host of this program. But we're going to flip the tables a little bit, and even though the physical table is staying where it normally is, and you can hear laughing already. I should have muted that microphone before starting. Anyway, the physical table is staying in the same orientation. It'd be too hard to flip it around, but metaphorically, we're flipping the table to for me to host and to interview the author of this book, Pickleball Faith. To start with, let me read two endorsements that are in the back of this book that kind of give you an idea of what we're dealing with here. Stephanie Lane, three-time USA Pickleball National Champion, wrote, "You will be blessed with the invitation to peer into the sweet heart of Stacy Lynn while joining her on her journey of faith in God and in humanity, simply through this crazy sport called pickleball." And Dr. Jennifer Fee, psychologist and TEDx speaker, says, "Pickleball Faith is for everyone who appreciates spiritual wisdom gleaned from everyday activities." So let's now find out what sort of, a spiritual wisdom that we can gain from an everyday talk show host. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and mix things up here, and I'm going to need to take my name off of there because I can, and I'm looking good here on the camera there. But anyway, let's go ahead and bring in Stacy Lynn Harp. Welcome to Bible News Radio.
I'm glad to be here.
Great.
So this is so funny because, this is like the ultimate in doing book publicity, right?
Yeah, and I should have rigged this up to have me on the left side of the screen, and then the guest on the right is the typical thing.
Typical.
But we're gonna roll with this because it just didn't occur to me to set up a new shot. But it is what it is, right? So, Pickleball Faith, inspiration on and off the court.
You should use this copy, the one without the
the not for resale band across it. Well, it's the only copy that I have, people. Right. So why don't you pass that one to me?
Here you go.
All right. And so
now I have his.
So Pickleball Faith.
Yes.
Inspiration on and off the court. Let's start with an obvious question, and that is, why pickleball?
I think this is so weird. Well, hello, audience. First of all, I want to say that I'm actually wearing my pickleball shirt. This is the USAPA pickleball shirt. If anybody wants to know, I kind of gamed up for the interview here. I got a pickleball here on the table with a cross that I just drew on it because on the cover of my book we have the cross on the ball. It's kind of a thing. But why pickleball? Gosh, I don't know. Those of you who watch this show, you've been watching me for almost 6 years. You talk about pickleball. Because honestly, as I started in the book, I talk about how pickleball found me, right? I was brand new to Tennessee, trying to make friends, was in water aerobics, not, really connecting and having a lot of fun because most people in there are like 20 or 30 or 40 years older than me. And then one day I saw this game down there in the gym and it looked like tennis. And I was like wondering what it was. And I found out that it was pickleball. And I went and I started to play it because I knew I could because I could play tennis. And next thing you know, a community was born. And it changed my life. Yep. And those of you who've been watching me for a long time, I'm the first person you ever heard about pickleball from. Most of you in this audience have told me that. So, yeah. And I've been talking about this book for a long time, and it's finally out.
Yeah, and we're celebrating it. I'm celebrating it.
I'm trying not to cry here.
I'm rejoicing with them that rejoice, and a lot of people rejoicing with you. It's so cool to, have your words in print. And
you want to hear something funny that happened today? I didn't even tell you this.
Sure. Share with us something funny.
So I went to pickleball, right? I went to go play pickleball this morning, and I was walking to the gym, and one of the ladies at the rec center who knows us, I think it was Fran. Fran, she came out of some room, and anyway, she came. I said, "Fran, check this out." I said, "I got my new book," and I held it up to her, except not this one with the not for resale banner on it. But she goes, "That's your book?" I go, "Yeah, it is." And this other woman comes walking up, and she's like, "Oh, that's your book?" She goes, "What book is it?" I said, "It's Pickleball Faith." She goes, "Oh." She goes, "This is your book." And I said, "Yeah, I wrote this book." And she goes, "Oh, you wrote that?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "Isn't it cool?" So it was just funny because they weren't expecting it to be my book. And then when I brought it into the gym and I was showing some of my friends, they were like, "Wow, this looks really nice. This is actually really cool." So there's something very cool about holding your first book.
So when you said, "This is my book," I thought maybe you owned it. That it
right.
was, you were the owner of that book, whatever it may be.
Right.
Not your book that you authored. That book. Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have not even heard of pickleball. It seems like everybody that plays pickleball is an avid pickleball player will tell you it's the fastest growing sport in the country.
Right.
Yes, so many people have never heard of it. Oh, what's that?
It's true.
So it's like, well, if it really was the fastest growing sport in America, that it would be. I mean, everybody knows about the legalization of marijuana in so many states, but that's few states in the nation have legalized marijuana, thankfully. That's a whole nother subject. But, people are talking about it. So the fastest growing sport in America, it seems like that would be on every front page of, every newspaper. But I guess because the other sports just aren't growing at all. I don't know. Seems like you hear about soccer moms and stuff like that. So anyway, pickleball found you. And for those who don't recognize or realize that it's the fastest growing sport in America, let's start with, that was kind of the reason why pickleball. Not that you wrote about it, but why pickleball? I mean, why is it, faith is an important part of someone's life.
Right.
But of all things, it's not simple faith, or it's not, assurance of faith, or it's not foxhole faith, or other things, airport faith, or other kind of things that people might be familiar with, and things that may try your patience and build your faith. Why pickleball?
My pickleball faith
Yeah,
is.
why pickleball faith?
That's a good long question that you just asked me.
Thank you.
It's weird because the name came to me, I don't know, like 4 years ago when I started writing this book. I just knew I had to call it Pickleball Faith because what it's about is it's about pickleball and it's about my faith being worked out within the community of pickleball players. And there are a ton of Christian pickleball players. There are a ton of ministries I'm finding that have like a burden to reach pickleball players for the Lord. And it's so funny to me because, the subtitle is Inspiration on and Off the Court. That's what this is about. It's about my journey with pickleball and how God has taught me lessons while playing the game and also while not playing the game. I personally believe that we should all be an ambassador wherever we're at. If we're Christians, we're called to go to the world, right? Our mission field is between our feet. It's under our feet. Wherever we're at, that's our mission field. And I don't go to play pickleball to evangelize people. That might be hard to believe. There are people that do that, but not me. I go there to play pickleball, and yet at the same time, what I found is that God met me there in a surprising way that I didn't expect. I didn't expect it. I became part of a community. I became a leader. I became, somebody at one point. The community was calling me kind of like the mother of the community because I designed a T-shirt, for the community and and we started having parties and different things like that. And so, but as in all communities, there's issues that come up. And that's really what this is about. It's about relationships. It's about pickleball and it's about faith. Did that answer your question?
It did. And
Good.
you brought up an important point, little sort of Bible lesson there. And that you said you don't go to play pickleball to evangelize. You don't go to the pickleball courts to evangelize.
No.
And
so true, I don't.
yeah, and that's fine. And the Great Commission is not to go. And I appreciate those who talk about going to the mission field, going overseas. I mean, those things are important. The Great Commission is making disciples. And go, therefore, a lot of English translations put the verb go because English doesn't have an aorist tense in verbs, but in the Greek it's aorist. And Randall's translation here. Having gone, since you will have gone into all the world, make disciples. And so it's a presumed done thing. That's the idea of aorist, is that it's speaking of a future thing, but kind of in past tense. Since you will have gone into all the world. Mm-hmm. And so the emphasis is not on the go, it's on the making disciples. And wherever you're going, you will have gone somewhere, whether it's to the supermarket, the pickleball courts, to the office, to class, wherever it is. That like you say, that's our mission field, and I appreciate that. You pulling that out. The mission field is underneath our feet.
Yeah, I also want to say too that you read the endorsements from Stephanie Lane and Dr. Jennifer Fee.
Indeed, I did.
Now our audience knows Dr. Jennifer Fee. She was a pretty big Gold Star Periscoper. Yeah. Constantly beating us up on Periscope, that Gold Star level, and a former professor of mine in grad school, and also TEDx speaker, which she, when she told me she would endorse it, I was like, she was the first one to read it. And she told me, this is great. And she would tell me the truth. Okay. I mean, one of your best friends, if they lie to you, then they're not really a good friend. But, Jennifer told me, when she first read it, she said, this is great. Everybody's going to love this. And what I can tell you, all of you guys out there, is that I've had more people who do not play pickleball read this book so far and love it than people who've actually played pickleball. It's that universal. And then when I asked Stephanie Lane to endorse it, and she was a previous guest on our show, her and her daughter, Lee Ellen, were on our show about 3 years ago. And when I asked her to endorse it, if she would endorse it, I was so blessed and so humbled that she took the time to listen to the book. She actually listened to it on her Kindle. And then she took the time and literally did this within a 48-hour period. Not only listened to my book, but then wrote an endorsement for it and then published it on her page. Now, you have to understand that not only is Stephanie a 3-time USA Pickleball National Champion, okay, gold level, but she's also one of the ambassadors for the pickleball brand Pickleball Rocks, which is one of the most popular brands of pickleball out there. So she knows people all over the world, pretty much. And when she endorsed my book and told me, she was so humbled that I asked her, it was so humbling to me that she was so humbled that I asked her. I was so humbled that she actually took the time to do it, because it was a couple of years ago. I asked her, I told her, I said, look, I'm writing this book. God's put it on my heart. And she told me that there's a lot of Christian pickleball players out there, and that if I wrote it, she would look at it and endorse it. And she did. And when she shared it out to her community, I had so many people come to me afterwards and just say, hey, did you know I do this? And I mean, there's so many people. And I'm actually thinking, Randall, of doing a show with some of the other pickleball people who are in ministry, because I would love to promote what they're doing. There's people who are doing missions to the Philippines. There's people who are reviewing pickleball books and paddles, and, they're doing all this other stuff, but they're all doing it for the Lord. And they're like, eat
or drink or
and they're calling me up. They're
to
saying,
the glory of God.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, sister, I want to get your book. I want to take it to some tournaments, and I want people to read it and get saved. And I'm like, well, that's not really the type of book this is. The gospel is in it. That's at the very end. That's the chapter called Pickleball Faith. But I was just floored. I was completely floored by that. And I've interviewed a lot of people in my life, and to be the interviewee is very different for me.
And Pickleball Faith is the longest chapter in Pickleball Faith, I believe.
Is it? Yeah, it's one of the longest anyway.
Yeah, and that's one thing that stands out to me about this book is that each of the chapters, and I don't recall how many there are.
There's 19.
Okay, there are 19 chapters, and some of...
And there's a forward, afterward, introduction, acknowledgments, and all that, but there's 19 literal chapters, so
but some,
they're short.
Some of them are a page and a half, some of them are 2 pages, some 2.5. They're not long. They won't take long to read in terms of words to read, but there is so much packed into each sentence. When I was reading the introduction yesterday, a sentence like this: as a middle-aged woman married for 29 years with no children, I've always found it hard to connect with others. It's like, wow. There's a lot in there that packs a lot. It's like there's a lot to unpack there, and it conveys so much, and we find that sort of what do we call it? I don't know. It's vulnerability, but it's not just plain vulnerability. It's thoughtful. It's thoughtful and thought-provoking, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to put you quite at the same level as our Lord, but I think
that's good.
I think
because you know me. better than anybody.
I think of some of the I think of some of the parables.
Yeah.
You know, like the parable of the prodigal son. It's not many verses. There aren't many verses to that story. But when there's a sentence like, you know, he, roughly paraphrasing here, that he longed to fill his belly with the pods that the swine were eating. You know, something. It's like, that's very few words, but it says quite a bit. It paints a really vivid picture of things, because it's not just factual. It's not just you know, descriptive of physical characteristics, because it speaks to the human soul, and it's. Yeah.
I think when you read the Word of God a lot, you maybe that's what you're seeing. Maybe you're seeing the influence of God's Word on me, because I read the Bible more than any other book.
Oh.
You know, I mean, I read the Bible every day, and maybe there's some type of transference or something from the style of writing I read in the Bible to how I write. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if you worked stocking shelves in a supermarket, you know, you might have written a book, you know, Supermarket Faith, or you know, or Box Knife Faith or something, just because that's who you are. But I think being so, you know, one time like 4 or 5 days a week playing pickleball, being so entrenched, for lack of a better word, in that community, so woven into that community, you know, an inspiration on and off the court. And I think that speaks to you, that you're going to find, as someone seeking the Lord and is going to find inspiration wherever they are, but pickleball being a big part of your life. But I think there's more than that. It's more than just because it occupying you know, large chunk of your time. There's something more to the dynamics of pickleball that lend to these stories. And I don't want to give anything away, but
you have to give a couple stuff away. I mean.
But let me ask you this: what's your favorite chapter? What's your favorite story that you relate in your book?
My favorite story is the Cupcake Caregiver.
And yeah, well, without reading it word for word, maybe you could give us a little quick overview.
Sure. So the Cupcake Caregiver is about my friend Frank, who there's so many different stories in this book, but this one is my favorite because Frank is in his 70s. He has a daughter like me, about my age. And when I was taking care of my father, those of you who watched know that I took care of my dad, he would ask about my dad every day, every time we were there together. And one year, a couple years ago, our birthdays are in the same month. They're in October. And he came in, he shared with me, it was his birthday. And I'm a gift giver. I mean, that's, if you're close to me, you get a gift, right? I mean, that's, generally speaking, I express love through gift giving, and I feel loved by getting gifts. And so I didn't know it was his birthday. And I said to him, I reached into my backpack and I pulled out $1.25 or $1.50, whatever it was. And I said to him, I said, Frank, here, it's your birthday. I want you to go to the vending machine and buy yourself a candy bar on me. Happy birthday. And and he was touched by it. He took it, and he calls me Poncho, and he said, thanks, Poncho, or whatever. So every time I showed up on the court, he would call me Poncho, first of all, which is funny because that's generally, I think, a guy's name, but he would call me that. And then, you know, he would always, you know, pass pass by, say hi to me, and we played games together. And when you're seeing people a lot, you develop relationships, you find out about their family and stuff like that. And time passed. A year passed, and one day I showed up late to the pickleball court because I had to take care of my dad. I don't remember what it was, but it was some errand, and I had to do it. And so I showed up later to the court than I normally do, and Frank was waiting for me, and I didn't know why. And this is going to make me cry. Yeah.
It wouldn't be BNR episode if you didn't.
I know, right? But I'll never forget this because I wrote about it, so I wouldn't. But I walked over to the side of the court that I was at. He came over to me and he handed me a little box. And I opened it up and there was a cupcake in it with a candle. Yep. You don't get this emotion in the book, but there was a cupcake with a candle in it because it was my birthday. And he had waited to give me that cupcake. He went to the store on purpose.
Yeah, I don't.
And it meant a lot to me because, number one, he remembered my birthday. I didn't tell him, but he remembered my birthday because our birthdays were a couple days apart. But it was a year later, and he got me that cupcake. He intentionally went to the store, bought that cupcake, put a candle in it, and wished me a happy birthday. And I think the reason it touched me so much, and I write about it, is that he knew my dad could not do that for me. And he did. And I need to get him a copy of the book. Because, that's my favorite chapter because it's something I didn't expect at all. And it was from a father to a daughter because I believe he knew my dad couldn't do that for me.
Well, you said you don't get this emotion in the book. No, we don't read anywhere that...
Well, I cry throughout the book. There's...
that Stacy cried, here and here, as my tears, splashed on the floor. But you certainly get that emotion from the book. And
do you?
At least I have found that. And it's been said that if there are no tears in the eyes of the author, there will be no tears in the eyes of the reader. Yeah. And but I think people reading this book will find that emotion from the book, not in the book, but from it.
Yeah, I haven't had many people tell me they cried. I've had a lot of people say they've laughed.
There's that too,
which makes me laugh because I'm not sure what the funny part about this is, except that I'm so honest about what I think. But
well, you approach things with humor. Well, you've always approached serious subjects with a light touch, so.
Yeah, I guess so.
And not everything in here is serious, like, I'm going to say gravely serious, but there is one on death. But, it's not like gloom and destruction. And, there are life lessons of inspiration on and off the court. But, there is vulnerability. There is contemplation. There is confession. It's like reading my journal. There are deep things in the book, but they're dealt with a light touch. It's not like you need, a psychotherapy session after reading it, or.
No, I did though.
No, you don't need to go. I need to go have a drink after reading this book. No, it is you keep it light throughout. it's
So-
not.
so what part-
It's not frivolity.
It's hard for me to not ask you a question because I'm the interviewer, but like,
Yeah. So don't.
Okay.
Because
I'm gonna hold back.
rarely does the guest, the author ask the interviewer a question, unless it's about something about them that wouldn't. The author doesn't ask the interviewer about the book. I mean, because the author is the expert on the book.
Right.
So, I'm thinking, I didn't do because I don't usually open up this program, I didn't do all the usual housekeeping stuff and announcements at the beginning, but, I can take care of that maybe when we're closing up. For those who will watch that far, then they'll get that stuff. You've, let's see. Again, I don't want to, give away the store here, but you've dedicated to this book to Joe Gibbs,
Yes.
and you wrote 3 paragraphs? Yeah. Dedication. Maybe you could tell us a little more about Joe and that dedication.
So Joe was one of the very first people I met at Pickleball, and this is a picture of me and Joe. It's the only picture in the book, me and Joe. And Joe died a couple of years ago. He was one of the first people I played with. The very first time I met him, he came over to me, he grabbed my nose, and he went like that. Hurt my nose, and he kept doing it, and I had to tell him to stop it because it hurt my nose. But he taught me that I could come from behind and win a game, among other things, actually. He's the guy, him and his wife, Sharon, who actually brought the game of pickleball to the community center that I play in. And that picture in the book was basically, it was taken about 6 months before he died. So he loved pickleball so much that he brought it to the community. And if him and his wife didn't do that, then my life wouldn't have ever been changed by it. But he was also he was a hard worker. He was an entrepreneur. He loved people. He was fun. He was kind of an old curmudgeon. I called him Old Geezer. And he was just nice. He was just a nice guy, and I liked him a lot. So I dedicated the book to him.
That is really great.
Isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah, I miss him too. And
Sure.
I actually write about his death and how the community came together and what happened with Sharon afterwards. I talk about a prayer I did with Sharon and some stuff that happened with him that the Lord did. And it was cool. It's that, again, it's the who you are as a believer, just being you, faith being worked out in these relationships. And I know Sharon doesn't even realize the impact that she and him have had on me. I know that when I told her I was writing the book and dedicating it to him, she's like, we need to meet for lunch. So we still need to do that because I need to get in touch with her. but yeah, that's who I dedicated it to, Joe.
That's really something. And I feel like, you having just cried moments ago and now talking about bringing up Joe's death, and it's like I don't want to paint this as a downer book. It is dealt with a light touch. And so on that side, when you think about the funny things that are in the book, maybe share with us something you think is one of the funnier moments or stories.
I don't know. I think I guess I don't see a lot of funny things in the book. I would say one of the funnier things is when I met Amy.
Yeah.
Amy was the vice mayor, and she was actually on the city council. I guess here in the middle Tennessee they call it an alderman. But I met her.
Board of mayor and alderman, yeah.
Right. She was basically a public official, right? I met her in the bathroom. And that was funny to me because I was in there. We were both in there doing our business. That's what you do. And we were both washing our hands after we did our business, and we started talking. And she was telling me about how she was going to go exercise on the treadmill. And I said, that's so boring. Why don't you come and play pickleball? She's like, what's that? And I'm like, you don't know what pickleball is? Come with me. And me and her went out, and I taught her how to play. And then she was a natural at it, and ended up joining in and playing tournaments and won gold. And the really cool part is that, people thought we knew each other, but we didn't. We met in the bathroom. And I told Randall, I said, 2 men wouldn't do that, not unless they were gay, probably.
No.
But they would meet in the bathroom, So, and I don't mean that in a mean way, what I just said.
It's just one of those differences between men and women.
Right.
You go out with several couples, to some kind of dinner thing, and one of the wives says, well, I'm going to the ladies' room. And the rest of them stand up and they'll go together,
I hate that personally, but me and Amy did not go to the ladies' room together.
I know you didn't go together.
We just happened to meet there.
But had struck up a relationship inside the restroom.
And that's the funny thing is, yes, I met her.
Whereas the same dinner party, a man stands up and says, well, I'm going to go to have a great time. You want to come with me? No, I think you'll be fine by yourself. Thank you very much.
No, but...
And it's you don't strike up a conversation in the
No, but the funny thing
room.
is, I guess the funny thing is because I didn't know who she was. I didn't know she's like this bigwig city councilwoman in our city. Number one.
Somebody with a different job.
I had no idea who she was.
Just a resident of our fine town with a different job.
Yeah, which she's no longer at. But before she left, she lobbied for pickleball courts in our city.
Yeah.
So God connected me to a connector who could further the sport of pickleball in our city, and I think that's funny.
Yeah, and especially since she went from what's pickleball to advocating
for pickleball.
Yeah, pickleball courts.
Which tells you a little bit about the community of pickleball.
About the sport.
This is a game where people they actually like each other. There's other sports maybe,
Who likes each other?
It's just
the people like the sport, and the sport likes the people.
Pickleball people like sports.
Okay.
They like each other though. Okay. People become friends playing this game. And on a more serious note, one of the things I do want to talk about is I talk about, it's about relationships. I tell people when I was writing it, I would say this is a book about relationships. It's about meeting people where they're at, understanding what their backstory is, learning that, maybe you're playing with a miracle instead of a menace. Maybe there are menaces out there. It's about understanding that there's a beginner's perspective, there's an advanced player's perspective. And you can carry that over to pretty much anywhere in your life. One of the points I made in one of the chapters had to do with the fact that, have you ever considered, as an adult, you don't have to learn anything new. You don't have to go to school if you're an adult, right? And so a lot of people might come and play pickleball who are older, they're retired, they just retired and they're trying to pick up a new sport. And maybe they can't play it great the first time, but, you got to give them a chance. And why are they there in the first place to try to learn a new thing? They don't have to. Nobody's forcing them. They're not putting a gun to their head saying, you have to play pickleball or else I'm going to kill you. No, they found something about this sport, which is so fun. It has the quirky name, everybody says. And they wanted to come in and play it. And over time, they will learn it. And what's been really cool for me as kind of an unofficial ambassador for it is that when I first started playing, and I write this in the book, that 8-to-1 was the ratio of men. There was 8 men to 1 woman. And now, 6 years later, because I've been playing for about 6 years, now kids play. I played with 2 children this morning. One was 10 and one was 15. Great players these kids are, running this 53-year-old around the court, So kids and young adults, young couples, and older people play this game. Everybody can play it. And you got to ask yourself, why are they playing it? Is this hard for them? And who's going to be the gracious one to play with the beginner if you don't like to play with the beginner, and stuff like that. So it's really about attitude and perspective. I wouldn't say a lot of psychology in it. It's not as heavy on scripture either. I think I quoted about 15 scriptures in the whole book, which mostly had to do with attitude, so.
Yeah, and if it's not the fastest growing sport in America, it's certainly a fast growing sport in our city, because I think of when you started playing, how many people were there, and now you show up on a Saturday morning and
there's 50 people there.
Yeah. Or more sometimes.
Yeah. Today wasn't so bad. There's only probably about 20 people there today, but it was pouring out. So I think that kept a lot of people away. Oh. So I want to let people know, however, you can get my book.
Yes, they can.
Right? You can pre-order it right now. It depends on when you're watching this. If it's after a month from this date, then the books are available on my website. This is a proof copy of the book, which I am actually giving away. I'm doing a contest right now to give one of these away. The only thing that makes this different is it has this on it. When you order your proof copy, they do this. They put not for resale on the title, so you can't sell it. And the only thing that this book doesn't have, that the final version, this does not have a table of contents. That got accidentally left out. So if a winner, whoever wins this copy will not have a table of contents. But other than that, the whole book is the same on the inside.
And it could be worth something one day, being a proof copy without the table of contents will be rare. The hundreds of thousands of copies that are out there, there's only like what, five
there's only five
with that are the
proof copies. Yeah.
And another detail, some of you who bought the earlier copies, the cover will be a little bit different. There's this sort of white thing over here. That's just part of the photograph with something in the picture behind the netting.
Did you change that on the one you gave me yesterday?
Yeah, so
I didn't notice. So that's cool.
because it looks like some sort of print defect.
It does.
But it's not. It's something that was actually
on the net.
Really there and so I toned that down, and another place where it was anyway.
I think this adds some character though.
It does, but so now the very first purchasers have collector's item if the Lord tarries, and
collector's item.
Well, yeah, something that makes collector's items. There's coins and stamps and other things that become valuable because they're rare. Well, precious metals are precious metals because they're rare. They're precious. And that's what makes them precious metal, because they're not, compared to a lot of metals, they're not very common, and they've got some good properties as well. I mean, gold is a really good conductor. It's not a superconductor, but it's very good and valuable and looks really nice, but it is also not very common. You don't find I
think we got the point.
Yeah, anyway, so...
Any other questions?
So these original books, anyway. Well, you just mentioned you were like downplaying.
I'm your wife here. You can be asking me any question.
I do. But it's just that you were kind of downplaying. Well, the proof copy you're giving away has this not for resale, and it's like, well, yeah, but it's rare. There aren't many, and you mentioned it, and it doesn't have the table of contents either. So there are like 3 features of the proof copies that are very rare. Wow. There's only 5 of those, and there will ever only be 5 of those. Okay. Anyway, so a great thing to get in the drawing for a rare copy.
I like your salesmanship there. That's good.
Just anyway. So speaking of that, seems we're like 45 minutes into this or so.
Wow.
Yeah, we are. I should do the housekeeping thing. Should I give a try at that? Give it a shot?
And then you're going to come back and
come
close
to be, and then we can talk about where people can get your book and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
So,
Sure.
So, hey, people. Thank you for watching this program. And this Bible News Radio is a production of Heart Tug International, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to reaching the hearts of people one verse at a time. And there are more ways that you can engage with us and the ministry. Outside of this program, just watching this program, there's a little ticker going on at the bottom of the screen there. For those of you who are viewing this, we have a large listening audience as well that just get the audio of this broadcast. So I'll read it for the listeners, but there is this ticker going across the bottom that to stay up to date with announcements of what's going on with the program and the ministry, you can text using SMS messages. You can text Bible News as one word. Take the two words Bible News, squish them together so there's no space in the middle. Text Bible News to the number 33222. So, it's a phone number who you're sending to. It's 5 digits, 2 3s, 3 2s, 33222. Text the term Bible News to 33222, and you'll get on that text message for updates. If you were looking for some accountability in your scripture reading, and you want to get a little prompt to be in the Word of God each day, you can text the term Team Unstuck. Again, it's like two words smushed together there. Team Unstuck to that same destination, 33222, to get on that Bible reading accountability text message list. And if you want to find out more about the Heart Tug Ministry, just go to hearttug.org, heart, H-E-R-T, tug, like tugging on your heart, hearttug.org. Find out more there. And there you can find an opportunity even to donate to the ministry of Heart Tug International. If you like what we're doing and want to help offset the costs of doing this ministry, that would be appreciated. And what else do I want to tell you? I don't usually do this, so I don't know. Did I do good? Did I do well?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, you did great.
Well, thanks.
You nailed it.
All right. I hear it a lot, but I've never practiced it because I just sit here and listen to it.
Should we tell people about the new Heart Tug Fellowship?
Yeah, let's do that. Thanks for the reminder. I can do that.
Okay.
So, starting Sunday, February 6th, we're going to do an inaugural meeting of an online fellowship. This is to supplement Christian fellowship that you have elsewhere. But a lot of people are not in the congregation right now, like on Sunday mornings. Something that they're having, difficulty finding the right fit right now. So Sunday mornings, beginning February 6th, this inaugural session meeting, we're going to have at 10 a.m. Central Time, and see how it goes. So this, in the early church met house to house. We're going to meet multiple houses, but in one place virtually on a Zoom meeting. So if you want to be part of that, what do? I guess they can go to the website, hearttug.org, and send us a message through there.
Yeah, or you might want to put something on there about that.
Put something on
the website. You might be able to put something on the website, but
yeah.
The best place to do is just get on my email list, because I will email info about that, and I'll email probably a link in the email about that fellowship.
Yeah, and to get on that email list, again, visit hearttug.org, and the banner at the top, there's a couple of places, but the banner, what?
BibleNewsRadio.com.
Or BibleNewsRadio.com, yeah.
Never know which way to point.
Yeah, it's on
right
on
there.
my right.
Okay.
You're right. I'm just trying to trying to get a hand in here in my little frame.
Don't put your hand in my ear, though.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, BibleNewsRadio.com, hearttug.org will take you to the same destination. And the banner at the top, there's an offer there to get your free Bible fact sheet. Doing that, you can sign up through the for the email list and get a nice little thing besides.
Nice. All right.
All right, so now let's start to wrap this up. Tell us, we've been talking about your new book, Pickleball Faith, and we got the right copy here.
Yep.
Inspiration on and off the court. We've learned a little bit about the sport of pickleball, and just exercising your faith wherever we go, whether it's on the court or off the court. The mission field right under our feet, as well as some kind of fun and meaningful things that you've encountered in the local pickleball community. But as I'm tempted to read some of the foreword by.
Go ahead.
Well, we got like 5 minutes or so, but
It's our show. We can go as long as we want.
this is true. But the foreword by
David.
Hart. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think. There's
Isn't he doing a great job, everybody? Interview me. He's doing such a great job. You're doing a great job, Bareface. Right.
Yeah, let's do this one. This kind of sums it up. It says, the sport of pickleball can be taken literally or metaphorically. You can read this book to be a better pickleball player, or you can read it to be a better person in this life. Starting a new endeavor, accepting advice from mentors, learning discernment as to which advice is sound and which is deceiving. All these life lessons are priceless to the person who can listen and apply. And you'll find those types of lessons in this book. So you don't have to be a pickleball player because, again, can be literal or metaphoric. There are, as he points out, there are other things, moving to a new area and starting a new job or any kind of thing. The lessons apply to all, kind of ages and stages, really.
Yeah.
And so
David is amazing. He not only is a great pickleball player, but he's an ambassador and he's an attorney. And I had him read my book, and then I asked him if he would write something for it, and he offered to do the foreword. And his foreword is so humbling to me, because the funny thing is when I asked him okay, Dave, what'd you think about the book? Oh, it was good. That's basically what he told me. But then when he wrote the foreword and I read what he wrote, I was like, oh, okay, he got it. And it made me cry because I was like, oh my gosh, he got it. He got what this book is about. He summarized it so greatly and concisely. Wow. And that was before the final manuscript was even done too.
Right.
I mean, he got most of it, but just, yeah. That's why I say this book isn't just for pickleball players. It's for anybody who wants to grow in your relationships with people and in your relationship with God. This book would not be possible without God in it. It's about my relationship with God ultimately. And I do dedicate it, by the way. I do dedicate this book in part to the Bible News Radio community right here. See? I wrote this. I also want to acknowledge those of you in my Bible News Radio community, and it's right there. So if you're watching our show, you guys listen to me. You're part of my community. It's an honor to be able to teach what we teach through the show, interview different people through the show. But to get to know the host of the show in a very intimate way, by the way. And I went to therapy over this, just so you know. I was like telling my therapist, I don't know, now that, everybody's going to be reading this, they're going to really know me. And I mean, you already know me because I'm not fake. What you see is what you get, but you will know the inner thoughts of me. But at the same time, hopefully my wish for you is that if you read what I wrote and what God gave me to write about. It will give you the courage to be the disciple that he's called you to be. And if you're not a disciple of his yet, my hope is that you will know that God loves you and that he wants to be in a personal relationship with you. And that's basically, we talk a lot about Bible reading accountability here on the show. That's how I end the book. I end the book. I start the book talking about how I became part of a pickleball community, and I end the book talking about how I became part of a Bible reading group accountability community. You can't grow individually. You're never going to see a vine separated from a branch or other leaves. There's you got to be connected. And I think part of our society today is so disconnected. And I talk about that too. That I think that if you can learn from my mistakes, then you're smart because you don't go through the pain that I went through because I'm a knucklehead, right? I mean, there's the bottom line. So if you can learn from my mistakes from what I wrote in the book, then great.
Indeed. I was going to say to paraphrase, but not really paraphrase. I'm just going to read from the back cover. You'll be inspired to consider not only whom you're playing with, but more importantly, whom you are becoming personally and in relationship with God. So, to get a hold of this inspiration on and off the court, tell everybody how they can get a copy of your book.
The best place to get a copy is my website, BibleNewsRadio.com. The book will be available there in paperback. If you're watching this prior to the end of February, we're waiting for the books to come in, but you can put a pre-order in there. And if you can't wait, you can get it also on Amazon.com. You can get it there, and you'll get it in a couple of days. The pros and cons. Here's the pros and the cons. The pro is if you get it through our ministry, it will be the funds will go towards our ministry. It will be a little bit cheaper for you to buy the book, but you'll have to pay for shipping. If you get it through Amazon, we don't get as many royalties through Amazon, but if you're a Prime member, your shipping is free. So I guess you really just have to decide how fast you want the book. Also, if you get it through my ministry, if you want it autographed, which I personally think is silly, but I know people want an autograph of a book. If you want it autographed, I'll autograph it. It might be hard to read because I have sloppy writing, but I will write it. I'll autograph it to you if you get it through my site too. So I can't do that if you get it through Amazon unless you get the book through Amazon, then mail it to me and then I can mail it back to you. Otherwise, I can't autograph it from there. So
they can also get the ebook, purchase the ebook on our website.
Yeah, actually, we have that available in Kindle format, and we can do that. That's like $3. I think we get
for a minimum.
For a minimum donation of $3.
Get what you want, but.
So yeah, I think we get $2.30 after PayPal takes their cut. If you get the Kindle.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
And I will say this too. If you're somebody out there and you really don't have the money to buy the book and you really want the book, I will send you a Kindle version of the book. If you seriously can't, if you really have no money and you can't, I will be more than happy to give you the Kindle version of it. Just ask me.
Very good. And so, as you would ask any of our guests, any final thoughts, any parting words of wisdom for the audience?
I would say always remember the relationship is the cure. It's the relationship you have with God first, and then it's the relationship you have with other people. That's the cure.
All right. Well, man, yeah. Relationship with God and the other people. But yeah, relationship is cure.
That's actually a title of my chapter in my book.
I know. Early on. All right. Well, thanks for being my guest.
You're welcome.
And with that, I'm going to close things down. Hang tight, and we'll connect afterward.
Okay. I can't wait.
There we go. Like that. Slide her over and stay with me. All right. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of Bible News Radio. Again, questions, comments, concerns, reach out to us at BibleNewsRadio.com or hearttug.org. The contact form there. Be sure to get on the text message list by texting Bible News to 33222, or if you want to be on the Bible Reading Accountability List, that's Team Unstuck to 33222. And remind you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done that, and be sure to click that little notification bell to make sure you get notified of new episodes, which are every week. So you can plan on that. And with that, I'm going to glance down here at my little control stuff and cue this up to get out of here. So as your sweet and lovable host would always say, be bold, stand up and go with God, because he loves you, and I'll add, so do we. Bye.